To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.
So my dear children, in the earlier chapter, we discussed about the environment pollutants, and because of the environment pollutants, right, different kinds of adverse effects which are getting caused to the environment. Within this lesson part, my dear children, will be mainly focusing about the ill effects. As you can see here, the ill effects of environmental pollution, right? So under that, you are given with a subtopic, direct effects of environmental pollution. So because of the environment pollution, what are the direct effects that we can observe? Okay, so direct effects of environmental pollution will be discussed within this chapter, my dear children, right? So you are given with a point, then see the first and foremost direct effect of environmental pollution. So this is about the acid rains. So I think in the earlier chapters we discussed in detail how does the acid rain is going to create, right? And we even discussed what are the adverse effects of acid rains. So acid rain has been described as a harmful condition caused by the industrial waste such as oxides of nitrogen and sulfur. So under the oxides of nitrogen and oxides of sulfur, right, we have discussed about the acid rains, my dear children. And we discussed that acid rains which are getting caused because of the action of or because of release of a large amount of sulfur dioxide gas and oxides of nitrogen, right? When these things are released excessively to the environment, acid rains are going to create. Here, these oxides are getting dissolved within rainwater and come down, which is referred to as the acid rains. So sulfuric acid is created when sulfur dioxide gas and sulfur trioxide gas dissolve within rainwater. And my dear children, when nitrogen dioxide gas or other oxides of nitrogen, when those oxides of nitrogen are getting dissolved in rainwater, then in that case, my dear children, what will happen? Acid rains will create. Here the special acid which is going to create is nitric acid. Okay, the nitric acid. So we discuss harmful things related to the acid rains within our previous chapter. Okay, so I hope that you could remember those things. So soil infertility, destruction of aquatic animals and other aquatic organisms, then destruction of forests and other plant cover were the bad effects or the ill effects of acid rains. So I'm not going to talk in detail in here, right? But I'm going to move on to discuss the other contents, other ill effects. So the next one given, global warming. Second one, global warming, my dear children. So you know that different kinds of greenhouse gases, right? The emission of greenhouse gases, different kinds of greenhouse gases are going to emit to the environment because of different kinds of reasons, mainly because of combustion of fossil fuel. And other than that, when decomposing plant and animal materials in the marshlands, when burning or combustion of different substances in the environment, right? Especially when during the combustion of plastic polymers, right? In those cases, my dear children, what will happen is different kinds of substances, especially these substances are referred to as greenhouse gases, will get emitted to the environment. So examples of greenhouse gases are methane, then carbon dioxide, water vapor, ozone, and so on. So we discussed that within several previous chapters. We discussed that this greenhouse effect is very important for the environment, as it is going to maintain a favorable climate for the survival of the organisms in the environment. So greenhouse effect is a needful factor to maintain a proper climatic conditions within the environment. So my dear children, right, it is important to, we should not stop the greenhouse effect. There should be certain amount of greenhouse effect. Otherwise, what will happen? Otherwise, our environment will not be able to tolerate, right? Our environment will get deteriorated gradually because of loss of heat energy or the temperature. So, favorable temperature is maintained by the greenhouse effect. However, excessive greenhouse effect will create global warming. Okay. So, because of release of these gases, greenhouse gases excessively, now in that case, my dear children, what will happen? Global warming will create. So, global warming is going to create different kinds of, right, ill effects to the environment and as well as for the people. Then, greenhouse effect occurs in the atmosphere with the high concentration of polyatomic molecules of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbon or CFC. So, greenhouse effect occurs mainly in the atmosphere with the high concentration of polyatomic molecules of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane and CFC gas. So, mainly these things are getting created because of the polyatomic ions, right? So, these polyatomic ions, okay, these polyatomic ions, my dear children, is going to react with, right, or this is going to absorb certain amount of solar radiation from the atmosphere, and because of that, what will happen? The environment temperature is going to increase, okay. Then high amount of energy received from sun is refracted away from the earth when the greenhouse gases exceed their permissible level, right? Hence, the temperature of the atmosphere increases. This is called global warming. High amount of energy received from the sun is refracted away from the earth when the greenhouse gases exceed their permissible level. Hence, the temperature of the atmosphere increases. So, this is called the global warming. So, what will happen over there is large amount of gases, okay, if there are large amount of greenhouse gases, then more amount of solar radiation and heat energy carried out by the sun is getting refracted away towards the planet Earth. So, this will definitely increase the temperature in our atmosphere. So, we even discussed about the global warming process in detail within the previous lessons, my dear children. Okay, right. So, let's see the next one then. So, here you are given with the changes that occur due to global warming. So, temperature in the land get increase. Then snow cover and the glaciers are going to melt and come down. Then because of that, ocean heat content will get increased and sea level also getting increased. Surface temperature of the sea is getting increased upon increase in the temperature of the atmosphere. Humidity level is going to increase. Temperature over the oceans is also getting increased. Then sea ice level is dropping down, right? Glaciers are going to melt down. Snow cover is going to melt down. So, because of these several reasons, my dear children, what will happen? Ultimately, temperature of the oceans will increase, then the sea level will increase. Because of that, small islands will submerge in the water, and there are several other ill effects. So, let's see what are the ill effects then. Number one given then, melting of polar ice caps, glaciers due to global warming. So, melting of polar ice caps, glaciers due to global warming is a main effect because of the greenhouse effect, right? Here actually what happens is, because of the greenhouse effect, global warming increases, and because of increase in global warming, what will happen here? The melting of polar ice caps, right? So, when polar ice caps or glaciers melt down, definitely the sea water level will get increased. So, upon increase in the sea water level, my dear children, small islands will get submerged within the water. Okay, right. Then rising of sea level and small island will be submerged. Yes, we discussed that thing, right? Then next one given, change of global climatic patterns. So, there are two effects like El Nino effect, right? So, several effects. So El Nino effect is a 1. Within El Nino effect, my dear children, the surface temperature of the Pacific Ocean region is getting increased. Okay, you know that when increasing the temperature, the global temperature, the surface temperature of the seawater is also getting increased. So when increasing seawater, temperature of seawater within the surface of Pacific region, the El Nino effect is going to create. So our planet Earth, the wind created by our planet Earth and all the other resources in our planet Earth, mainly wind and other types of resources like the rain and the sunlight. So these things are being managed by our planet Earth from the amount of temperature received from the planet from the sun. So you know that our planet doesn't receive for each and every place, our planet doesn't receive solar energy or sunlight in equal amount. Okay, in equal amount we will not receive sunlight. It's mainly because of the tilt of the earth. So my dear children, now when you take the tilt, when you take this action, or when you take this phenomena, because of having that phenomena, because of uneven distribution of solar rays and sunlight in a certain area, when the temperature is going to increase, in the opposite area the temperature is going to decrease. So it will help to maintain the wind patterns, right? So wind patterns will definitely create different kinds of rains and other effects created within the atmosphere. So these wind patterns are mainly created or mainly affected with temperature. So when increasing the temperature within the environment, my dear children, will definitely cause in change of these wind patterns. So change of these wind patterns will create climatic changes. So therefore, when change in the climate of a certain country, severe conditions may occur. Some conditions are having droughts, cyclones, snow and heavy snow and winter time period, longer winter time periods. Okay, so like that way there can be severe conditions that can occur mainly because of the increasement of global temperature, right? All right then, so the next one, ozone layer depletion, the next effect, the next ill effect of environment pollution. So ozone layer depletion. Ozone is a trimetric molecule of oxygen. This is a thin layer found at 25 kilometers away from the Earth's surface. At higher atmosphere, oxygen absorbs ultraviolet radiation and forms atomic oxygen. This atomic oxygen is highly reactive. So, my dear children, now ozone layer depletion. So here within the first and second points given, the creation of the way of creation of ozone layer is given. So ozone is a trimetric gas. Trimetric gas means it contains 3 atoms of oxygen. 3 atoms of oxygen, not 2 but 3. So 3 atoms of oxygen joins together in creation of ozone. So ozone is a type of a gas which is created by the reaction of oxygen atoms or atomic oxygen with oxygen molecule, that means oxygen gas. So oxygen has the ability to absorb solar radiation, and because of absorbing solar radiation by the sun, oxygen atoms break down into, right, or oxygen molecule breakdowns into atomic oxygen. So that atomic oxygen is also going to react with, right? Now you know that atomic oxygen is very reactive. So atomic oxygen is now once again combined with oxygen gas, and upon that combination, ozone gas or O3 molecule is created. So here it is given, they react with O2 to form O3. This O3 is converted back to O2 and natural equilibrium is maintained. This ozone layer acts as a protective shield to prevent the entry of harmful UV radiation to the Earth's surface. So, ultraviolet radiation. To stop the ultraviolet radiation, my dear children, right, this ozone gas is very important. Ozone layer is very important in protecting us from UV rays or harmful ultraviolet rays. Here what happens is, the ozone gas has the ability to absorb ultraviolet radiation. Then it has the ability to break down into oxygen molecules. Then once again oxygen can absorb ultraviolet radiation and to break down into atomic oxygen to create ozone molecule as well. So here there is a well balanced situation. Okay, there is a well balanced situation. Naturally, the creation of ozone and the creation of oxygen from ozone has a balanced situation in natural conditions, right? So, however, my dear children, there is an exception. What is that? But gases like CFC and nitric oxide, NO, right? Gases like CFC, chlorofluorocarbon, and nitric oxide, NO, destroy ozone layer by detaching oxygen. CFC at higher atmosphere obtains solar radiation and is converted to atomic chlorine. This atomic chlorine reacts with ozone and breaks down ozone molecules. Similarly, nitric oxide also reacts with ozone to destroy them. Due to the depletion of ozone layer, holes appear in it. As a result, radiation with high energy reaches the Earth's surface. Now the case is, my dear children, if you take gases like chlorofluorocarbon and nitric oxide, they have the ability to destroy ozone layer. How come? By detaching oxygen from the ozone layer. That means, my dear children, here CFC gas at higher temperature or in higher atmosphere, and they can absorb the radiation, solar radiation, and can convert into atomic chlorine. So this atomic chlorine react again with ozone molecules and breaks ozone into oxygen and other kinds of substances. In simple, my dear children, what happens here is CFC gas can break down into atomic chlorine, then atomic chlorine can break down ozone layer, right, by detaching oxygen. So here the natural balance is broken down, because the within the natural balance, ozone and oxygen. Ozone break down into oxygen, then oxygen again absorbs solar radiation, then again converts into what? Again converts into ozone. However, my dear children, if CFC is being released to the environment in greater extent, then chlorine is going to react with ozone to create other different kinds of substances. Now the thing is, those substances will not again convert into ozone. So gradually the ozone layer will get depleted. And because of the depletion of ozone layer, what will happen here is, here it is given. Similarly, so due to depletion of ozone layer, holes appear in it. As a result, radiation with high energy reaches the Earth's surface. So what happens here is, due to the depletion of ozone layer, right, holes appear in the ozone layer. So these holes will carry harmful light rays towards the planet Earth. Okay, harmful light rays means light rays which has ultraviolet rays. So not only CFC or chlorofluorocarbon, similarly nitric oxide also reacts with ozone to destroy them due to depletion. Nitrous oxide, NO. So nitrous oxide is also a type of a gas which can detach oxygen from ozone. So nitrogen oxide, okay, nitrogen oxide is also going to create, right? Nitric oxide is also going to create the holes, or it is going to deplete the ozone layer and create holes in it. So upon creation of the holes within ozone layer, what will happen, my dear children? Solar radiation will come and hit the earth's surface, and when these rays come in contact with people, different kinds of side effects going to occur, right? Okay, then, so ill effects of ozone layer depletion. Cause cataract. So cataract means deforming of protein layers in our eye. So because of that deformation, or because of that mutation, our eye lens, okay, our eye lens is getting converted into a white color substance. So this white color substance is not transparent, my dear children. So the person who is having cataract will not be able to observe objects clearly, because the transparency of the eye lens is getting reduced gradually and getting converted into a white color substance. Okay, so this is the one which is called as cataract. So cataract can create because of the absorption of ultraviolet rays from our eye lens. Okay, so ultraviolet rays are being received mainly because of the depletion of ozone layer. Okay, then the next one, cause mutations. So like I said, my dear children, radiation, when exposed into heavy radiations, what will happen? Mutations will occur. So DNA mutations, other mutations of the cells and tissues will occur. Because of that, my dear children, what will happen? Because of the mutation process, different tissues will get deformed, and sometimes even cancers will occur. Okay, then next one, reduce body immunity. So our body immunity is also getting reduced because of the radiation. So because of high levels of radiation, our body immunity is also going to reduce, my dear children. Then the next one, affect the photosynthesis and reduce the crop yield. So it is going to affect the photosynthesis process, and also because of the effect given out by this radiation towards plant and other kinds of crops, the crop yield is also going to reduce. That means reduction and scarcity of food will also get created because of the depletion of ozone layer. So a diagram is given in here. As you can see, step 1, CFC like gases are emitted and reach towards the ozone layer. Then CFC are broken down by the sun's ultraviolet rays, and chlorine atoms are released into the ozone layer, causing chain resolution of ozone layer, right? That means these CFC gases going to absorb solar radiation and especially ultraviolet rays. Then these ultraviolet rays, my dear children, going to create atomic chlorine. Then this atomic chlorine is once again reacting with the ozone layer and deplete ozone layer gradually, creating like these kind of structures like holes. Then, my dear children, when it is being completed like this, what will happen? As you can see here within the figure, harmful ultraviolet rays will reach the earth, right, because of the holes created within the ozone layer. So creation of holes within the ozone layer will definitely going to create these kinds of ill effects to the body. Okay, and also other than to the body, there are certain other conditions that will arise in our environment, like scarcity of food because of the effect given out to the photosynthesis process, right? So global warming is a very bad thing, a bad ill effect created mainly because of the ozone layer depletion. So ozone layer depletion is a direct effect of the environment pollution. So over there we discussed about the greenhouse gases. So release of greenhouse gases is the main reason for the depletion of ozone layer. Okay, right then. So this is the ozone layer depletion, which is the second most, right, ill effect given out mainly because of the environment pollution, right. Now the next one, photochemical smog. Photochemical smog. It is a yellow colored mist that is formed due to combined effect of smoke and fog, which causes eye irritation and vision impairment. So, yellow colored mist that is formed due to combined effect of smoke and fog. So, smoke and fog both are joined together to create the photochemical smog. That is why it is referred to as smog. Smoke, fog, smog. Okay, so photochemical smog is created because of the combining ability between smoke and fog. So here, because of creation of this mist, a yellow color mist, what will happen? Eye irritations will cause and also vision impairment. So vision impairment and eye irritation will cause because of this. Then you are given with a figure for the external edge. The oxides of nitrogen released due to combustion of fossil fuel and unburned hydrocarbons transforms into ozone aldehyde, peroxyacetyl nitrate, peroxybenzyl nitrate. At 15 degrees of Celsius, the presence of sunlight, right? So here, oxides of nitrogen released due to combustion of fossil fuel and unburned hydrocarbons transform into ozone aldehyde, right? Ozone aldehyde. Then peroxyacetyl nitrate, PAN. Then peroxybenzyl nitrate, PBN, at 15 degrees in the presence of sunlight. Due to these secondary pollutants, photochemical smog is formed. So because of these pollutants, my dear children, photochemical smog is getting created. So this is a mixture of fog and smoke, photochemical smog. Right then. Then ill effects of photochemical smog cause respiratory tract disorders like cough and wheezing. So main ill effect given out for the people because of the photochemical smog is the wheezing and other respiratory disorders. So I think in recent months, my dear children, even you guys had school leave, right? So even you guys had a school leave. It's mainly now this leave was given for you guys like about 1 or 2 days. I think for about 1 day you had a leave within recent months. It's mainly because, right, it was mainly because of the, right, photochemical smog created within the environment. Now India is a country that face this photochemical smog in greater extent, especially the town New Delhi, right? New Delhi town is facing very hazardous conditions because of the photochemical smog. So those particles came to Sri Lanka, right, with the help of a cyclone. So therefore, my dear children, even in Colombo area, right, we had this kind of a photochemical smog. So it's very irritating, and the other thing is that it will create different respiratory disorders as well. Okay, that is why you are given with holidays. Right then. So toxic to plants. So plant growth and food production is affected. So this is very toxic to plants, my dear children. Right? It is very toxic to plants. So because of that toxicity, what will happen? The growth of the plants and also the food production process, that means photosynthesis, is getting affected. Next one given, vision is affected due to turbidity. So when the turbidity is going to increase within the air, my dear children, what will happen, right? As you can see here, the vision is going to affect, and because of affection of the affection given out, or because of the effect given out, because of the effect given out to the vision, my dear children, sometimes different kinds of accidents will occur, right? So the people will not be able to drive their vehicles, right, as their vision is blocked by the photochemical smog. So therefore there is a risk of getting different kinds of traffic accidents because of the photochemical smog. Then, my dear children, next one given, the quality of rubber and clothes reduces due to bleaching. So as these substances are very toxic, so because of the smoke and fog containing different kinds of pollutants and different kinds of chemical substances, this smoke will definitely bleach rubber and other kinds of clothes and substances. So because of this bleaching process, what will happen is, right, the quality of the rubber and the clothes will get reduced day by day. So as you can see here, given with a figure, photochemical smog in India. So you can see that the India is facing a terrible situation nowadays because of the photochemical smog, right? So you can see it within the figure. Right then. So this is the photochemical smog. Then, my dear children, given biomagnification. So can you remember we discussed about the biomagnification just in a small bit of a brief, right? When I was discussing about certain things related to the previous chapters. Okay. So the biomagnification, let's see what does this biomagnification is in detail. Okay. So biomagnification, collection of toxic chemical pollutants along the food chains from one trophic level to other is called biomagnification. So biomagnification means, my dear children, collection of toxic substances from one trophic level to another trophic level through a food chain. So how does this process is going to happen? You know that there are different kinds of organisms living in our environment. Usually they receive substances that are present within the environment. For a certain example, let's take a plant. Now plant receives different kinds of nutrients and materials from the environment. So they utilize these things to create food. So food is being eaten by us. Then we receive energy. However, the particles or the substances contained within the soil is being absorbed by the plant now, and the plant is now making food items. It can be vegetables or fruits. So when you are going to consume these things, the particles which are being obtained from the environment will definitely come for you guys for sure. Okay. So when you take a pond or else an aquatic environment, you know that during an acid rain, heavy metal particles and other toxic particles will get dissolved within the acidic water, and definitely they will come and collect within these reservoirs. Then what will happen? The concentration of toxic substances and heavy metal particles will increase within the reservoirs. So within the reservoirs, fish will collect these things within their tissues. So when we eat these fish, what will happen? They will come to our body. The issue is that, my dear children, when these substances or when these toxic substances, right, you know that these things are getting collected within each and every organism who is living within the pond or the reservoir. So you know that we are not going to consume just only one fish within our lifetime. So we are going to consume several. So each and every time when we are going to consume that kind of a fish, those toxic substances are getting collected to our body. right? So from one food linked or one trophic level to another trophic level, these toxic substances are getting collected from one particular organism to another. The other issue is that when the size of the organism is going to increase, right, or when they are larger, when the organism is somewhat large, then what will happen? More and more food will be consumed by that particular organism. In that case, my dear children, the biomagnification or the accumulation of those toxic particles will also get increased. Accumulation of these toxic particles within their tissues and within their bodies will also get increased. So therefore, these will create serve conditions not to the organism who is at the top of the food chain. That means not to the organism who is going to start the food chain, but to the organism who is at the very last level of the food chain, like the territory consumer. Okay, so it will start from very smaller levels, but when passing through the food chain to when passing through the trophic levels in the food chain, right, what will happen? The accumulation of these substances will get increased. So here it is given, right? As you can see, for this area, around 0.000002 milligrams per liter is absorbed by a certain reservoir. Then here, for this one over here, 8 milligrams are being added. So these things are being added to the microorganisms. So here for this particular organism 8, then for this one 10, then for the somewhat larger one 11, then even larger one 37, then 110, then finally 160. As you can see, from when moving from one trophic level to another, the accumulation of these substances will also get increased. Okay, accumulation of these substances will also get increased. So this is a very risky situation, my dear children. So each and every toxic particles can accumulate like this, especially heavy metal particles. Okay, so that is why, my dear children, now people in the Rajarata area are being advised right now to not to eat freshwater fish living in their tanks, right? It's because, my dear children, now these tanks, when time is going to pass by, you know that these reservoirs mainly collect water from rain, and also sometimes the water which is running from water which is flowing from different kinds of paddy fields and other areas. So like I said, my dear children, the water which is coming from different paddy fields and lands, you know that in Rajarata area there are large amount of paddy fields which use large amount of agrochemicals. So these agrochemicals will wash away towards these reservoirs and getting collected within the reservoirs. As you know, as we have studied, these agrochemicals sometimes contain different kinds of heavy metals and other kinds of pollutants. So these pollutants and heavy metals will get collected and will get biomagnified within the reservoir. So when these fish are being caught and being consumed by the people, it will create, right, or it will make a possibility to create kidney diseases. So nowadays it is being advised to the people, especially in Rajarata region, right, in Sri Lanka, to not to eat this freshwater fish, okay, mainly because of this biomagnification process. And the other thing is, my dear children, now you know that animal liver, right, animal liver is much nutritious, and for the patients and also for other kinds of disease carrying people, right, in order to give good nutrition food, this liver is given for those deceased people. But however, within nowadays, my dear children, eating these liver parts of the organisms is going to create worse conditions. Why is that? Nowadays, my dear children, most of the animals is going to eat chemical based substances. So these chemical based substances are finally getting like our liver is the main organ which is going to help to purify blood with the help of the kidneys as well. So all the poisonous substances within food is getting collected in our liver. So in the same way, my dear children, you know that different kinds of animals use different kinds of chemical substances. Even chemical substances are directly given with their food to that particular organisms, okay, or that particular animal, especially for pigs and chicken, right? Then what will happen? Livers of those organisms will accumulate different kinds of toxic substances, and my dear children, these toxic substances will create different kinds of diseases if you eat or if you consume those livers, okay. So animal liver during the earlier times, ancient times, was a very much nutritious one. However, in modern world or at present, the animal liver is, when eating animal livers in larger extent, will create severe health conditions in your body, right? Because mainly because of this process which is referred as the biomagnification, okay, right then. So for external age, diphenyl trichloroethene, DDT, polychlorinated biphenyl, PCB, mercury and copper, which are called as heavy metals, accumulate in the body of organisms. So like I said, my dear children, these are the substances which are getting biomagnified. What are the substances? Diphenyl trichloroethene, DDT. Then polychlorinated biphenyl, PCB parts. Then, my dear children, mercury and copper like heavy metals, and these things, okay, and these things will accumulate within our body and they will get biomagnified, okay. Then features of bioaccumulated substances, special features of bioaccumulated substances. Let's see. These substances do not degrade easily and retain for a longer period of time. The first and foremost one. Do not undergo in biodegradation quickly. So they are going to retain within the body for a longer time period. Okay. Next one. Can pass from one organism to another through food chains. We discussed that thing. So when one particular organism is going to eat another one, from this person to that person, these substances have the ability to pass, okay. Next one, soluble in lipids. The other specialty is, my dear children, these things are soluble in lipids. So when we eat a food item which contains these substances, what will happen? Definitely they will dissolve into our tissues, because you know that our body tissues contain lipids. So therefore they will get accumulate within our within our tissues, and especially therefore these things are getting dissolved within our liver. Next one, become active as biochemicals. So they become active as biochemicals within the body of a organism. Next one, these substances enter into lower trophic levels in micro amounts, but they get concentrated along higher trophic levels. So like we discussed, my dear children, in very smaller amounts, these substances are getting collected for the smaller organisms or on the bodies of smaller organisms. In very smaller amounts, these substances are getting collected. But however, when passing through trophic level to a trophic level, right, the animal or the organism which is at the last level of the trophic level will have large amount of substances within their body, these toxic substances within their body, because when passing from one trophic level to another, these substances multiply its number. You know that because we are not going now, if you take humans, now humans will assume that the human is at the last end, or the humans are at the last trophic level of a certain food chain. Then we accumulate these substances to our body from different sources: fish, meat, other plant substances, and so on. So therefore we are the ones who is going to have the highest level of biomagnification. Okay, so all of these particles are much available within our livers, even for today, even for now, my dear children. That is why most of the people right now at present are suffering with different kinds of kidney diseases, different kinds of liver failures, and even cancers. Okay, right then. Next one given, eutrophication. So I think you could remember when I was discussing about cleaning agents and when I was discussing about detergents and soap, I was talking about a certain thing called eutrophication. Now we are going to investigate about the eutrophication in detail, my dear children. Okay, over there I told you that we'll be discussing about eutrophication in detail. Now it's the time then. So here it is given: phosphate and nitrate concentration in reservoirs increases due to waste materials from industries, agrochemicals, fecal matter, and detergents. So when we use these substances like agrochemicals, right, and detergents, and also when removing fecal materials, and also when removing waste materials from industries, you know that these substances have the ability to collect within reservoirs, my dear children. So these substances like industrial waste, agrochemicals, fecal matter, and detergents, they have nitrates and phosphates. Nitrates and phosphates. Phosphate, you know the chemical formula, PO4 3 minus, phosphate. Then nitrate, NO3 minus, right? So these radicals will combine with other different substances, metallic or non-metallic. Then, my dear children, those substances will get accumulate within the reservoirs or water sources. And what will happen? Because of increase in these nitrate and phosphate concentration, so as a result, algae grow excessively and form a green colored foamy layer. This incident is known as eutrophication. So my dear children, like given in the figure, what will happen? Because of increasing concentration of nitrates and phosphate compounds, algae will grow excessively within these reservoirs because these factors are much favorable for algae. So algae will grow excessively within these reservoirs or within this water. Then what will happen? Then, my dear children, right, because of the growth of excessive algae, the competition for favorable factors among the algae population will get increased. So here, as it is given, the overpopulated algae die due to competition, and anaerobic bacteria act on these dead matter and emit gases such as hydrogen sulfide, H2S, ammonia, NH3, and methane, CH4, which result an unpleasant odor. So my dear children, when you go for the urban areas, within their drainage systems and even in the reservoirs contained within the urban areas, you might have seen these things. Okay, the color green, you can clearly observe the green color water over there. And the other thing is that the very bad smell given out by that water. So the creation of green foamy layer is referred to as the eutrophicated layer or the eutrophication. So creation of that green color algae, excessively grown green color algae within a reservoir is the one which is referred to as the eutrophication. So when eutrophication occurs, my dear children, right, what happens mainly is these excessively grown algae, right, will die because of the competition. Now what will happen? Now different kinds of bacteria, anaerobic bacteria and decomposers, different kinds of decomposers will come and feed these dead plant and dead algae matter. So because of that, what will happen? Several different kinds of gases are being released to the environment. So these gases will emit an unpleasant odor. So examples are hydrogen sulfide, H2S, methane and ammonia. So upon release of these gases, right, very unpleasant odor is given out by those reservoirs. Especially these things can be observed within urban cities. Okay, within urban cities we can observe these things, especially within the urban reservoirs within the urban cities, and also within the drainage systems of urban cities we can clearly observe these things. Even in Sri Lanka also we can observe, right? So this process, this creation of green color, right, green colored reservoirs because of the excessive growth of algae is referred as eutrophication. Okay, so eutrophicated reservoir is going to emit heavy amount of different kinds of gases which is going to give out a very pungent smell. Okay, so we won't be able to even go closer to these reservoirs, my dear children, because of that irritating smell. Okay, so this is eutrophication. So as you can see here within the figure also, a eutrophicated reservoir is given. So I think you have seen and observed these kinds of eutrophicated reservoirs, right? Then so this is the process called as eutrophication. Then ill effects of eutrophication given. Let's see. Loss of transparency in water. If you can see the figure over here, you can see this water is completely eutrophicated. We won't be able to observe water even here. See, it's terribly eutrophicated. So as you know, this kind of water, right, this kind of water is, like, even we won't be able to touch these things because this water is going to emit much amount of toxic and a bad odor. So the other case is that, my dear children, the transparency of the water is now completely damaged, or there is no transparency at all in here. So loss of transparency of water is a main ill effect created because of the eutrophication. Next one, unable to utilize water. Now you know that even we won't be able to at least wash our hands or wash our clothes by using this water, right? So we won't be able to utilize this water for, like, any kind of a purpose. So we won't be able to utilize this water, eutrophicated water then. Next one, reduction of biodiversity due to death of aquatic plants and animals. As you can see within the figure given here, because of the eutrophication, right, the animals, especially fish and other varieties of aquatic animals, and also other varieties of aquatic plants will not have a chance to survive on this water because of the excessive algae. So therefore plant and animal lives will get destroyed, and it will definitely threaten the biodiversity of aquatic environments. Next one, loss of beauty of the reservoirs. As you can see, if a certain reservoir is like this, then we won't even look at those reservoirs. It's because that the natural beauty of the reservoirs is now getting destroyed or it's lost. So therefore, loss of natural beauty is also an ill effect of eutrophication. So this is about the eutrophication, my dear children. I hope that you got the idea about eutrophication very well. Okay, right then. Then the next one given, the increase of radiation level. So exposure to radiation increases day by day. These radiations are released by natural sources and due to human activities, especially destruction of ozone layer and accidents in nuclear power stations are the reasons for this situation. So example given, Fukushima power station in Japan, Chernobyl power station in Russia. So I think I have given you a good knowledge about these power plants and about the nuclear power stations when I was discussing about the nuclear fuel. So over there I told you that these nuclear power stations are very much safe, but however, mainly because of human errors and sometimes because of natural reasons, there can be radiation exposure. So like I said, my dear children, in our human history, only these two examples are the main examples that we can take for the leaking of or for the exposure of radiation levels. So the exposure of radiation levels are also going to create different kinds of serve conditions. Like I said over there when I was discussing about the nuclear fuel, right? Because of the radiation, my dear children, the mutations will occur, especially within the organisms and as well as different kinds of plants as well. So within the animal bodies, the DNA structures are getting mutated and cancers will create for sure, right? If you expose to more radiation, then my dear children, plants, so the plant crop yield, and not only the crop yield, my dear children, production of food or the photosynthesis process will also get effect, and even food is being produced, consumption of those food items will be toxic because it has absorbed more amount of radiation from the environment. So mainly these things, or mainly these radiations are getting created because of exposing or because of exposure, right, of these substances or these organisms for higher radiation levels. So higher radiation levels come to the environment mainly because of the nuclear power plant accidents or nuclear fuel accidents, as you are given here within these figures. So you are given with figure an accident in nuclear power stations. So here it is going to be very dangerous, my dear children, right? So the people who is going to work on these areas definitely going to die because of this radiation effect, right? And their cells are going to mutate and finally they will suffer and die. So a terrible situation if radiation is going to expose to the environment. Okay, a terrible situation will definitely occur for sure. So this is the new increasing of radiation level. So accidents that can occur within power plants contribute in this. Okay, right, my dear children. So within this chapter, within this whole chapter, we discuss several ill effects created because of the environment pollution. We have discussed about the direct effects of environment pollution within this whole chapter. We discussed about acid rains and how does the acid rains are going to create different kinds of environmental problems, right? Then we discussed about, my dear children, about the ozone layer depletion and increase of global temperature or increase of global warming. So over there also we discussed about several things regarding the ozone layer depletion, how does the ozone layer is going to create and how it is going to deplete, then what are the ill effects of ozone layer depletion, right? Like that way we discussed several things regarding the ozone layer depletion. Then, my dear children, we discussed about eutrophication and biomagnification. Okay. Then finally, my dear children, we discussed about the nuclear accidents or new exposure to higher radiation levels. So these are the common, right? These are the common and main direct effects of environment pollution. Okay, direct effects of environment pollution. So in our next chapter, my dear children, we'll be discussing about indirect effects of environment pollution. Indirect effects. Okay. So in our next chapter, my dear children, we'll focus about the indirect effects caused because of the environment pollution.
To watch these important lessons, subscribe to DP Education's YouTube channel right now. Click on the bell icon to stay updated on the latest lessons. Sri Lanka's largest free online school, DP Education.